to get supported, because when we continue to get supported by our own, then we can lift as we climb. That's right. And the more we climb, the more we can lift.
Empower, innovate, act. The National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. Some people call us coalition, others call us family. We are more than your ordinary industry trade show. Membership is more of an attitude. You see, to be empowered means you have to have a sense of self, to be sensitive, purpose-driven. Innovation can only happen when the odds are against you, but that's when NCBNP is at its best.
Our superpower is that we keep going. No matter what the chaos is that's happening around us, we keep going.
When you bring those people into the community, it does a lot of good for the community. It supports those jobs. It offsets taxes for residents if you're elected to do the right thing. And it generally increases quality of life for everybody involved. So
our founders taught us to always innovate and tap into the brilliance that is within. We just have to act and be ready to move with precision at a moment's notice. This isn't a game for us. You see, the coalition is a mindset. It's a group of professionals. Nah, that's not strong enough. It's a group of friends moving as one part that can and have competed at all levels, who honor the organization's creed of doing business with our friends.
You know, I prayed for this conference. I told my VP, I said, I invited Jesus to this meeting, and I did. And I prayed about you all being here, the experience of arriving here. And I prayed for this brother, and won't he do it?
Know when to pivot to survive and thrive. We are not just here to survive, we are here to thrive. Thrive and thrive and thrive.
From C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, destination management professionals, association leaders, thought leaders, young scholars, hoteliers, and planners, we are NCBMP.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals, it's my honor as the National Board Chairman of NCBNP to welcome you to our 43rd Annual Founders Day celebration. Today, we celebrate more than an anniversary. We celebrate vision, courage, and 43 years of impact. When the founders of NCBNP came together, they saw a gap, a lack of representation, advocacy, and opportunities for Black meetings and hospitality professionals. Rather than accept the status quo, they built an organization that would elevate our voices, strengthen our networks, and expand our influence. NCBNP was founded on purpose, built on partnership, and continues to thrive because of you, the leadership. That same spirit, resilient innovation, and bold action is reflected in hidden hospitality. Long before equity was a conversation, Black hotel, motels, and resort owners were creating opportunities, building communities, and defining excellence in their own terms. Those pioneers of hospitality laid the foundation, and NCBNP's founders expanded it. And today we are responsible for advancing it. Greatness isn't defined by the time. It is revealed in how we rise within them. At this time, I also would like to take this opportunity to thank our national partner for this celebration, Visit Pittsburgh. And remember, NCBNP, we together today, let us honor our founders' vision, carry forward their legacy, and lead boldly into the future. Happy Founders Day. Let's continue building together. Thank you.
Pittsburgh is a must-see travel destination and a premier city for business, sports, and leisure events. Once you emerge through the Ford Pitt Tunnel, a world of possibility unfolds. We invite you and your attendees to discover all that Pittsburgh has to offer. It is well known that we have breathtaking views, incredible food, thriving arts and culture, nightlife, and an incredible craft beer scene, fantastic hotels and accommodations, and entertainment for the whole family. What makes Pittsburgh so special are the event experiences, venues, and attractions that you can only discover in Pittsburgh. You'll find for every rule, Pittsburgh holds the exception. Our outstanding venues include the Platinum LEED certified David L. Lawrence Convention Center. The beautiful center provides 1.5 million square feet of space for your group to meet. Pittsburgh's downtown area is compact, allowing your attendees to easily walk to many hidden gems and unique experiences. We are proud to be home of the Andy Warhol Museum, Heinz History Center, National Aviary, the Roberto Clemente Museum, the August Wilson African American Cultural Center, and the list goes on. What else will we deliver on? When you plan your event in Pittsburgh, our team will connect with you with access to our broad community. That includes technology, manufacturing, healthcare, academic institutions, and everything in between. Our team can make the connections you need for engaging speakers and community leaders to help deliver your groundbreaking meetings. Plus, Pittsburgh's convenient location makes for less than 6 hours of travel by car or train from Washington, D.C., Canada, and 10 other states. Our award-winning Pittsburgh International Airport serves more than 8 million passengers annually, with nonstop destinations continually on the rise. And that's just the start. Connect with our team to learn more about why we've been named one of the best places to visit. We're excited to meet you.
I guess I'm on. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Calvin Stovall. I am the CEO of Iconic Presentations, and I'm going to share my screen so we can get started here. I don't know why this thing is not moving. Come on. I don't know what's going on here, but should be in presentation mode. Let's try it again. It's not sharing. Apologies, guys. I don't know what's going on. I'm not getting it. It's not snatching a presentation.
No worries. So we'll keep going. No worries. No worries. We're good. We are bigger than a moment. And isn't that right? Isn't that us? So here's what's happening. The chairman came on to give greetings about the 43rd anniversary. You know that some of you know that we just lost one of the two founders whom were still here with us, Miss Sylvia Thomas. Can we take a moment of silence just to remember her as we kind of celebrate this 43rd anniversary and the things that she did to help carry on the mission of the organization. Please join me in a moment of silence as we think about her and reflect upon the investment, time, blood, sweat, and tears that her and her family have given to us. Please join me in a moment of silence. With that, so today, we're going to talk about hitting hospitality. And many of you who attended the conference in Portland, you may remember us giving the book out to some of our dignitaries. In this book that Mr. Stovall will talk about soon, it really speaks to the journey that we as a community have withstanding and frankly blasted through, regardless of the context of the history that our community has dealt with. As he begins to speak, you'll learn about the Jim Crow era and how, despite all of that, our community not only persevered but thrived. Not only were there times when sundown cities and or places where many of our athletes and scholars could not travel and or vacation, or even just get a piece of this time as relaxed at a restaurant. That our own communities kind of went in by themselves and created wealth. Not only did they create wealth, they created a service that allowed us to feel like we were a part of a community, that there was dignity in our movement. There was self-awareness of who we are and what we can contribute as a people. And frankly, there were investments into the hospitality space that we, most of us whom are on this call or Zoom or LinkedIn, still reflect on and benefit from today. And so again, you're hearing talk about different profiles throughout the history of this book and how the first generation of enslaved persons came and started their own hotels, got investments from banks, collective empowerment, and sold those banks or sold those hotels and began generational wealth, and or created resorts, restaurants of like and communities that still are currently sustaining themselves in different parts of the country, not just in the South, but also the Midwest and the East. And so I think he's ready now. And then so I'll come back later on after he presents, and then we'll have a conversation. So again, we're bigger than a moment. Forgive the delays, that things happen, but we're going to keep pushing as we always do. And for the last 43 years, we're still here, we're still strong, and we're going to sustain the moment. Let's bring Calvin back on to present. And we got you now, bro. You good?
All right, we're good. We're good.
All right, now
everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, sir. We got you.
All right, fantastic. First of all, thank you so much for your patience. Sincere apologies. We had a technology glitch here, but we're rocking and rolling. Congratulations to NCBNP on your 43rd anniversary. And I want to just say thank you for giving me the opportunity to share this wonderful part of this wonderful book, Hidden Hospitality. Beyonce knows, I know all of us know Beyonce. She went to she had, after a huge concert at a concert hall in New Orleans, she went to a hotel to check into her room. And when she got there, the hotel told her, "We're sorry, we don't have a reservation for you at all. LeBron James, I know we all know Mr. LeBron here, a fantastic NBA player. He was in LA, went to a restaurant to have dinner, and was told that yes, he was able to eat there, but he had to enter through the back, towards where the kitchen area was, and had to come through the back area. Al Roker, we all know on the Today Show, Good Morning, I think it's Good Morning America, but he was actually on a beach, just relaxing in Atlantic City. And somebody came over and told him, sir, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong section of the beach. There is an African-American section over about half a mile down. So I know all of you are probably in shock, and you probably should be, because all of those stories are false. Every single one of them, none of them happened. But my point here is, what I wanted to say to you is that back in the past, 1800s and early 19th century, it didn't matter who you were. You could be famous. You could be Sammy Davis Jr., Sam Cooke, Billie Holiday, any of those, Frederick Douglass. It didn't matter. You were not allowed to stay in any white-owned hotels. So it didn't matter what your rank was, who knew you and who you knew. So it just really see what happened here is, I know this is a shocking, I love this part because people are usually shocked when I tell them that it wasn't true. Why I wrote this book, one of the biggest reasons here is from, I think this quote from Marcus Garvey. I just felt like primarily there was a narrative that wasn't shared about Blacks and African Americans in hospitality. Most of the stories that you would hear was mostly around, us in service, serving service roles, which are all great, but that doesn't tell the whole story of who we were and what we contributed to this industry. I felt there was a huge gap in that, and that was kind of what led me to this. And I think this quote is actually in the book and right in the beginning. And I just really feel like we really need to know that the contributions that we made to this industry were just phenomenal and just huge, and I needed to share it. So I always get the question, what is hidden hospitality? It is a coffee table book, pretty oversized, like a 10 by 12, pretty thick book. And it has, of course, about 150 photographs and so forth in there. And I cover maybe 60 or so hotels throughout the book. But to summarize what it is, it's truly a chronological visual journey of Black history through a hospitality lens. I'm sure all of us have read Black history books, but this kind of slant to it is quite different. I talk a lot about, of course, the hotelier that opened the hotel. There's stories around those properties that are in the book. And, I talk a little bit about, who stayed there and what happened to the hotel. So it's stories, probably 99% of the people in this book, we probably have not even heard of before. And that's regardless of race and industry. That's why it's called Hidden Hospitality, because they built some safe spaces for us to stay when we couldn't stay in white-owned hotels during that time. Now, a lot of you may be familiar with this movie. I think it came out in 2018, won a couple of Academy Awards, called The Green Book. If you have not seen this movie, I would strongly encourage you to watch it. It's actually about Dr. Shirley, who was a classical pianist, and he was going on tour in the South, and he was being driven around by a white, I think he was a bouncer, an Italian guy, who was kind of, making sure he stays safe on this trip. But the movie really covers The Green Book, which, for those of you that don't know The Green Book, it was started by Victor Hugo Green, and he was a postman in New York City, and he really wanted to create a guide for African Americans to travel across America, when they were driving, because you really needed this. This book had all what you would call African American friendly places they could go, and it included, salons, barbershops, hotels, motels, restaurants, you name it. across the state. And because he was a postman, he got other people in that space. There were other postmen. They sent in, addresses and locations so they can create this wonderful guide. The guide was created from I think the first one was in 1936, and it ran to about 1966, 67, something like that when it stopped. But you didn't travel without this guide, okay? Because what you didn't want to do is end up in a sundown town, which was a town where, particularly in the South, Arkansas, and those areas, if you were caught after dark, you would be in trouble. It harmed you, sometimes even death. So this guide was really like a GPS on paper for Blacks when they were traveling, and you needed that. You had to have that book with you. So that movie, The Green Book, kind of introduced a lot of people to what the Green Book was, because I believe a lot of people didn't even know what it was and what was behind it until that movie came out. But that whole Victor Hugo Green, his wife Alma, played a significant role in getting those published. But it's significant part of the book of Hidden Hospitality. But it's only a small portion, because as I mentioned, the Green Book was written from 1936 to 1966 or 7. My book starts in the late 1700s. Okay, with Rachel Pringle Palgreen, who you see here, and she had a hotel called the Royal Navy Hotel in Barbados, and it goes all the way through Jim Crow era, Harlem Renaissance era, and then it goes all the way up until the Civil Rights era, which is, as you know, I'm sure all of you are familiar with this photograph at the Lorraine Motel, where Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. And then the last chapter of the book, which is probably the only one that's in full color, culminates and pulls everything together and talks about, Black hoteliers today. And so, of course, this is Sheila Johnson, a Black billionaire, owns the Salamander Collection. But that last chapter covers a lot of people that are owning and running hotels today. So what I thought I'd give you a glimpse into this book is that the best way for me to do it is kind of give you an idea of some profiles that are in here. Please excuse me, I'm going to read through some of these profiles because I don't want to miss anything. I'm not going to read word for word, but I think there's certain sections in here that I wanted to make sure that you were able to see. This is John Whitelaw Lewis. John owned a hotel in Washington, D.C., and it was called the Whitelaw Hotel. Now, some of you may be familiar, if you do know some history around Black hotels, you may know James Wormley. Some people really do. He was a 19th century hotelier. He built a hotel in 1871 called the Wormley Hotel, or some people call it the Wormley House. It was a 5-story hotel, and he had a restaurant. Truly one of the most fascinating stories in hospitality. If you have not heard of him, please go look him up. It'll amaze you. Talk about somebody bigger than the moment. James Wormley was one of those people, but I figured you might know that person. That's why I thought I would do John Whitelaw here, John Whitelaw Lewis. He was a prominent African-American laborer, entrepreneur, businessman, civic leader, and renowned hotelier. He owned and operated the upscale Whitelaw Hotel, aka they used to call it the Embassy. It's on 13th and T Streets in Northwest Washington, D.C. Here's the part that's fantastic about it. This hotel was completely financed and built by Black entrepreneurs, investors, designers, and craftsmen. Is an example of civic leadership attempted by his counter to oppression of racial discrimination and economic adversity in the 20th century. Truly a fascinating guy. The Whitelaw was nestled within U Street corridor, which was, some of you may have heard of Black Wall Street in, of course, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let me be one of the people to tell you that was not the only place where Black people flourished and had businesses. There was an area called Black Broadway in DC, which was a vibrant Black community, home to over 200 Black-owned businesses, patronized solely by African Americans. So, and there was one also in Detroit as well called Black Bottom. I mean, we can go on and on. But the oldest Black-owned financial institution in Washington, D.C., which is Industrial Bank, which is still there, was also founded by Lewis with another counterpart. And he provided opportunities for African-American home ownership and capital to launch businesses from within what was often considered a prosperous, it was basically a city within a city. And what I liked about him is he just was just fascinating. In 1894, I don't want to go back that far. He opened in 1919, Lewis opened the 4-story Whitelaw Hotel, an upscale apartment hotel in the Italian Renaissance Revival style, at the cost of $158,000, which back right now it'd be about $3 million or so. But the hotel was built entirely, as I mentioned before, by Black craftsmen under the leadership of Isaiah T. Hatton, who was one of the first African-American architects in the country. And what I loved, he also did, he sold shares of stock. He sold $12 shares of stock to the African-American community to finance its construction. And he did not, I love that he specifically wanted Blacks, not whites, to invest so that they can see that building towering skyward and say to the world that this is what we have gotten that got us out of prosperity. So just a fascinating, I think the guy is just has a fascinating story. Just look up Whitelaw Lewis, and actually his hotel is still there in DC. You can still see it, it's still standing tall, and you can go check it out. And so I always get like, I'm gonna go off a little because as we go through these hotels real quickly, I always get the question, what happened to these properties? Because most of the ones in the book, of course, they're no longer there. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 that was signed into as law by, I think it was President Lyndon Johnson, that law which allowed Blacks to stay wherever they wanted to go. And basically what ended up occurring is a lot of these hotels couldn't survive. They solely relied on patronage of Blacks. And so when we went everywhere else, we never stopped to think about what would happen to these particular properties. And so either they deteriorated because they couldn't make it. Of course, they weren't able to get a loan to refurbish the properties. Or they were maybe, some of them were still just vacant lots. I'm sure there's probably some of those still out there. And then in some cases, they were converted to senior housing, low-income housing in some instances as well. But the Whitelaw is still standing and it's there. I don't think it's a hotel anymore, though. I think they I think you can rent apartments there, from what I understand. This hotel is great as well. Let me see. This is I think it's the Woodlawn. Give me a moment. I want to make sure I find it. My man, Alan. Yes. I pulled his story out because I thought it was a great one. This is the Golden West Hotel in Portland, Oregon. Proprietor William D. Allen, and he opened his hotel in 1906, a long time ago. But look at that property. That's amazing. And here is what I love this. I love his hotel. Okay. Of course, here in Portland, you couldn't stay in white-owned hotels, but he built this hotel. He had this is a 5-story hotel built in 1906 to serve the African-American community. It was on Northwest Broadway and Everett Streets. The property comprised of 100 hotel rooms and housed several other Black-owned businesses, including the Golden West Hotel Barbershop, which was owned by Waldo Bogle, A.G. Green's Candy Shop, which was named the finest ice cream parlor and candy shop west of Chicago by the Portland Times. And it also had an athletic hub as well. George Moore's Golden West Athletic Club, which offered amenities such as Turkish baths and a gymnasium. The hotel also operated a gambling den in the basement whose operations are still a mystery today, okay? But at the time, the Golden West was the largest Black-owned hotel in the United States. The hotel employed 75 African Americans, primarily catered to Black railroad pullmen, cooks, and so forth in the Portland area, which were popular around that time. So absolutely wonderful property as well. And again, and this is great here, he actually, that property. I think there's still something there about that property. Hold on, I wanted to make sure. No, that's not, it's gone. It's gone. Okay. All right, let's move on to this gentleman. Very sharp guy. This is Major Charles Douglas, who is the son of Frederick Douglass. And this is a great story too. And I'm just going to read this directly from the book. The connection between hospitality and civil rights for African Americans were always clear. As the son of famed abolitionist and writer Frederick Douglass, Major Charles Douglas was no stranger to racism. When he and his wife Laura were barred from entering a restaurant at the Bay Ridge Resort on Chesapeake Bay in 1890, Douglas became motivated to venture into real estate, and he purchased 44 acres of beachfront property along the Chesapeake Bay, just southwest of Annapolis, Maryland, to found Highland Beach Resort, which is, this is a nice photo of some people at the Highland Beach. And Douglas developed the land as a summer resort community, the first in the country to be African-American owned and operated, and built cottages that he sold to friends and family. The initial purchasers included Blanche K. Bruce, who was the first African-American U.S. Senator from Mississippi, PBS Pinchback, former Louisiana governor, and guess who else? James Wormley, owner of the famous Wormley Hotel in Washington, D.C. So great property. I wanted to read, and of course, Highland Beach is still there, but you can visit it. Yet Highland Beach community cannot keep, let me see, cannot keep newcomers from the surrounding area. I want to read this here. Today, Highland Beach is a small community of around 100 residents, many of whom are descendants of the original settlers, which is great. The resort guest house has since been transformed as a private residence, so you may drive. You can drive around Highland Beach, set against Apple Park ground that opens to the bay, yet it remains a private beach for residents only. So basically, you can only come and stay there if you are invited. So you got to know somebody if you want to stay in Highland Beach. But I think it's still wonderful that it still exists. I think that's just fabulous. This is one of my favorite stories in the entire book. This is Joseph Lee. Joseph Lee owned a property called the Woodland Park Hotel, and this is in Newton, Massachusetts. And the great thing about this guy, when you talk about resilience, this is a guy with some serious resilience. He actually owned two hotels. The other one was in Abbotsford, called the Abbotsfords. He and his wife, Christiana, and he met her in 1877. But in 1882, he actually leased the Woodland Park Hotel. And then a year later, he bought it. And, you know, and then he actually had another one called the Abbotsford, and then there was a depression. And he actually lost both of those properties. 1 year later, he came back, and then he opened a 250 seat restaurant, which I thought was just amazing. But here's the thing about Lee that I want to make sure that I share with all of you. He was also an inventor. He had a very, very successful catering business as well. And he owned a Squantum Inn. And what happened was he was really known for his culinary skills. Yes, he had the hotel, but people came to the hotel because of his cooking. He was so good. Of course, his wife was involved in the business as well. But what happened was he was so popular, he had a team of people, 5 people kneading bread for him. But the business became so prosperous, they weren't kneading the bread fast enough. So he ended up getting a patent for a bread kneading machine. And so he got the patent, he has the machine, and the machine is too successful, and it starts making too much bread. And so a year later, he gets another patent for a bread crumb making machine. And what ended up happening was he used the breading for to bread his fish and chicken. And so basically what happened is, and everybody else was using crackers, so that lifted up his culinary, I guess you say, forte, and everybody would come there. But the cool thing too about him is that, as I mentioned before, his wife, when he did pass away, because he did everything, him and his wife were partners throughout this whole hospitality business here. And I think they were in the hospitality industry for decades. And so when he passed, his wife kept the business going, and she opened another inn called Lee's Inn, in honor of her, deceased husband. So her and her daughter. So I love that, because they kept the business in the family, and they were very, very wealthy. They were known in Massachusetts, and they were one of the top taxpayers in Massachusetts. So that's how they keep track of how much money. They could tell by how much taxes that you pay, is how wealthy you are. But of course, those properties are gone. But one of the most fascinating stories, I think, within the whole book is Mr. Joseph Lee. I want to do one more, which I think is a great story too. This is Edwin Cornelius Berry. Edwin Berry had a hotel. This is a hotel called the Hotel Berry. It's in Athens, Ohio. It was in Athens, Ohio, anyway. And this guy here, talk about somebody pioneering the industry. I want to find where he starts doing. His wife was involved. Maddie was involved in his business as well. And here you go. A decade after, he purchased the old building on East Court Street and erected the Hotel Berry, which was a 20-room hotel on the property adjoining his restaurant. He was another caterer that was very successful, a restaurateur. During this time, he was the only African-American on Court Street businessman. However, the purchase placed him in debt, and he got out of that. Somebody had loaned him some money, but I want to share with you how he, let me see. He began many practices. This is the one. He began many practices that were copied by hotel owners around the world. For example, Berry is reputed to be the first hotel keeper in the United States to have closet hangers, Gideon Bibles in each room, and sewing kits, ideas that likely came from his wife, Maddie. The Hotel Berry was modern, up to date in every aspect. Each room was equipped with electric cowbells, electric lights, hot water, closet, private bath. Hotel also had a barber shop on the first level and a ballroom used for dances and special events. Now, here's the kicker, my friends. While Berry never refused service to African Americans, his customers were predominantly white, making him one of the only African Americans in the nation who operated a first-class hotel patronized by whites. Indeed, Booker T. Washington commended Berry for having a deep sense of loyalty to his race, writing that he would rather lose customers than be guilty and sort of being disloyal to his race. So he welcomed blacks, but his hotel was pretty much filled with whites. And that's the difference. You'll see in this book, there's 3 types of hotels in this book. Probably 95, 96% of the hotels in this book, black owned, black patronage. Then you have situations like Mr. Berry here, which were very few, maybe 2 or 3 in this book, where he was black owned, primarily, predominantly white customers. But then you also have some, like the Hampton House in there, the Lord Calvert, and a couple of other hotels where they were white owned, but only blacks could stay there. I cover a few of those, and they were mostly in Miami. Like the Sammy Davis Jr.'s of the world and those entertainers, they could perform in the most beautiful clubs in Miami, downtown Miami, but they couldn't stay in those hotels or any of those clubs. They would have to come back into, which is now Overtown, Miami, which used to be called Colored Town. And they would have to stay in a hotel in that area. So I just, that's the only other hotel I'm going to cover here. But my whole thing here is, I know this theme of today is all about better, bigger than the moment. And I can't tell you enough what was inspiring to me, because again, these stories were new to me too as I was writing this book. It gave me a sense of pride as I was going through this, because I want you to think about just the context of when they were doing this. And I think sometimes that gets missed by people. Yes, if you hear about something like this today, a black person building a hotel, now, yes, it's still a phenomenal feat and it's fantastic. But when you think about the 1940s, somebody doing something like this, or the 1920s, when the United States were at its worst with racism and segregation, that just changes the whole texture of the conversation. They were building these properties to give us safe spaces in places where extreme racism, and they were very successful. There are several millionaires in the book. Church Reed in Memphis, Tennessee, and some of the others that are mentioned is fascinating. And I didn't write this book for black people. I know sometimes, No, I didn't. I wrote it for all people, because I always say Black history is American history. And this is a gap that needed to be filled. And so I think everybody can be inspired by these stories that's shared in this book, and everybody should read them. But I love the theme for today, because you talk about bigger than the moment. These entrepreneurs in here, male and female, I got a lot of women in here too that were sole entrepreneurs that built hotels as well. And they had to be brave, very, very brave. I got just this one more slide I want to share with you. For those of you who may not know this, I'm nominated for a NAACP, an AACP award, Image Award, which I'm totally blessed. I feel totally honored. I think I will find out tonight. They have an online ceremony, a virtual ceremony that they do for the literary awards, because they don't do these at the event that I think takes place at the end of this month. So please keep your fingers crossed for me tonight. I'm going to say a prayer for a brother. Even if I don't win it, I'm super blessed to be a nominee and just super excited about that. So thank you for giving me a chance to chat with you about it. And
Hey, listen, man, that was a wonderful, wonderful story. And I know we got a couple minutes just to talk about the context, and you kind of hinted to it briefly, but just kind of, as I read through some of the profiles, what was intriguing to me is the crossing of how the entrepreneurship kind of weaved itself into advocacy, and also into kind of reinvesting into community, right? And filling spaces where most were not allowed and or welcome. And so kind of talk about, as some of the hoteliers got their capital, right? They then reinvested in advocacy about civil rights. They were involved in essentially filling needs of like restaurants, hotels, churches. Kind of speak to that in your book on the power of that community supporting each other, one, two, having allies in that space to also support. And then three, I think just the impact that it made to see that as a community, we can invest in ourselves and also recycle that wealth within the community before it went outside. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, man, that's huge. And what you, and I know you saw this in the book too, Jason. All of these hotels primarily became cultural hubs and civic centers for wherever they sat. All of the people in that neighborhood, they supported it and held all of their events there. I mean, all the weddings, celebrations, meetings. A lot of these hotels, particularly like the Ben Moore's Hotel and the A.G. Gaston in Birmingham, though they also played significant roles in the civil rights era. If you can go all the way back to like the 1800s, mid 1800s, some of those hoteliers were involved in helping equality, civil rights. That fight was early, and they were in it. They were in it.
And actually, context too, geography is great too, because you look at it again. You say 1840s, 1850s. That was still when folks were still, enslaved, right? And so weren't free. And so some folks weren't free. And so I think it's interesting to see that there were entrepreneurship, which is not taught to us in history classes. We're just taught about the enslaved part, but not necessarily the industrious part of the innovation. And so I think your book kind of draws that conclusion for us and kind of sharpens that point. And so when we talk about bigger than a moment, just having the courage, the confidence, the intuition, the innovation, just to step out on faith and to do that, I think it's just something that we all just need to remember who we are, right? And
yes, absolutely. We're standing on the shoulders of some grace. I mean, and I pulled this out today because I know we talk a lot about coalition and pulling back. You got to pull. You got to, make sure that that's the only way the future of this industry is going to survive is if we reach back and pull back, people up. But I pulled this piece out, and because I bet a lot of people don't know this. Nationwide Hotel Association, which was started in 1953. Okay. The NHA called for a rise in standards of management, maintenance, facilities, and services of hotels and other places catering to the Black public, because if the properties that they did have us, that was created for us, if they weren't beautiful, they were really bad shape. I mean, some part is a compliment. Okay. And so, but this association they put together, founders of NHA were African-American, one of the African-American, William H. Brown. He was then the manager of Harlem's Hotel Teresa, and Andrew Jackson, who was the DC Public Relations Counsel. But here's the part. NHA's membership emblem, they had an emblem, red, white, and blue emblem that was placed in hotels, Black-owned hotels that were up to standard. And they had a conference. And here's the other part that I found fascinating. They actually, they had a first conference in 1955, more than 100 delegates attended. They had a second conference, Detroit's Gotham Hotel, which was Black owned. A.G. Gaston's Hotel won Motel of the Year. And then they actually had scholarships because they back then saw that wasn't, we still needed to invest in having African Americans. So they actually had scholarships to pursue a hospitality career for 3 colleges: Michigan State, Cornell, and Tuskegee.
Wow. It's and so again, man. Again, I think as people get the book, again, sometimes you got to show folks before they can see for themselves.
Yes.
And our founders, the 6 of them, we owe it to them. We owe their foresight, their courage, the confidence they had to step out on faith and to bring us together 43 years ago today. And like I said, only one is still standing, George Turner out of New York. We celebrate him often and as much as we can. And it's just sometimes you have to remind people that although we are in turbulent times, that's all I can say. We're in turbulent times. Policy may be against some of us. Rules and regulations may be put in place to restrain or lessen our impact. But again, we still persevere. We're still here.
We do.
I was always told to remember who you are, whose you are, and where you're going. And but you can't know that unless you have your history. And
That's
what
right.
your book does is ground and root us in our history and those who support and have been beneficiaries of it. And we just celebrate you. We thank you. Good luck for you later on this evening. We hope that you come out victorious. And if you haven't, just know that my son, my daughter, my wife, and I read the book, and I'm sure many people, our families, will do the same. It is going to be a point of conversation that sharpens what we already know to be true, that we are supposed to be here, regardless of policies and procedures, and those who may be with us today, but not with us tomorrow. We're still going to stand and sustain ourselves.
Yes,
so I leave that. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, yes, I just think, and even getting this book done, I mean, I had to rely on support of others. I mean, I went with a hybrid publisher, Jason. So I had to raise money first to even get them printed. And, people like Sheila Johnson, the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and even John Rogers, the CEO of Ariel Investments, helped put money in to get this done. So even in that fact, they were very, very supportive in helping make this book come to fruition. So I want to just thank them as well for their support too. But you can't do stuff like this alone. You need to support. And I love advocacy groups like the one, the National Coalition of Black Meeting Professionals. I love seeing us getting together and doing this. This is beautiful. I love it.
Indeed. So let me say this. Those of you who are not members, please go to ncbnp.com, We have numerous opportunities to engage. We are dual partners with MPI, PCMA, IAAE, and many others, ASAE, many others, and looking forward for you to join our organization, ncbnp.com. If you don't want to join, just support us. There's ways to donate. There's ways to participate. We have Center Black Tourism will be September the 17th. We also have our conference in Louisville, Kentucky, December 9th to the 12th. And then we have a couple of surprises for you in April that we'll announce pretty soon. But stay close to us. There are many virtual presentations like such that'll be coming up as well. And just the numerous engagements we'll have throughout the country. Watch us, follow us on LinkedIn, share with a friend. But let me leave this with you as well. Let your dreams be bigger than your fears, your actions louder than your words, and your faith stronger than your feelings. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.